You know, I mean, from then on, from that moment on, my mother has to say, you know, hey, my son had this marriage, and it really just, and she probably wouldn't want to say it so proudly, but it just didn't go the way that I would like it to go. It didn't. She probably wouldn't come out and tell you, hey, I messed up, but I did. And it's the same way for any sin. It's like, you know, if this is your problem, this is your problem, the sins that you commit, they're not just going to be known for the things that known by you, and it's not only going to affect you, it's going to affect your children and your family. You know, Elijah would have to say, you know, my dad wasn't faithful with my mom. Or they would have to say, my dad wasn't faithful with my mom. Yeah, there's these things that it doesn't just affect you. Those selfish things that we tend to do, they're not just affecting you, but they're also affecting my children. They're also affecting my family. You know what they're also affecting? They affect this church. Because it's a place that I go to, and I claim the name of Jesus, and I claim to be His. So I've got all these things that I've got to keep in check, and you're the same way. If you commit a sin, if you commit something, if there's something going on in your life and you're keeping it secret, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting the people around you. And it doesn't just affect your family, it doesn't just affect your children, but it affects the people around you. And then the other side of this is, there's another thought I've been thinking about before we get into today's message, is our effort is not in growing the church, but growing the people in knowledge. We would do something totally different if our whole idea was, I want to fill these seats. If I give money out the door, I get people here. We're going to give out $100 bills to everybody who shows up. I guarantee you that day, if people really believe that all these seats will be full. But I said, I'm going to give you something that's priceless. I'm going to give you the Word of God. It's going to change your life, and it's going to walk you to a new place with the Lord. You know what? Not near as many people show up. And our part here is not to just grow those people. I mean, we would love every seat to be full every Sunday, but the real truth is we want to grow you in knowledge of the Word. And that's some of you are doing the Bible read-through for the first time, and you're doing things, you're getting involved in the Bible plans through YouVersion, the Bible app, and some of you are doing private studies on your own. And I would say, you know what? Grow in as much knowledge as you can. Grow in as much knowledge as you can. Today I do want to wish my mom, it's my mom's 60th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday to my mom. If you have your Bibles, what we're talking about this morning is the Grindstone. And we're talking about in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, the Grindstone. And why did I call it the Grindstone today? It's because the things that we think are hurting us, the trials, the tribulations, are actually building us. And God can take this trial. Not that He causes every trial that ever happened to you. Every time I stop my toe, I'm like, God, you know, I'm not like that. There's some things that do happen. But what I realize is He can take the things that happen to me, He can put it to the grindstone. In other words, He can put the knife to the grindstone, and I come out sharper than I was before. Not the same. Not the same. But I can be used for Him. And all of a sudden I can go places that I used to couldn't go, and I can do things that I used to couldn't do. All because He took something that was meant for evil and He turned it for my good. I don't love the fact of everything that's happened to me, because you know what it does? It puts me in a place of knowledge that I didn't have before. And the same thing can happen for you. And some of you, there's been some things happen to you that I wouldn't want to happen to me, but you know what? You speak to some areas that I can speak to. All right, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16, and this is what it says. It says, therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweigh them all. And if you get tattoos and you like this would be a good verse for you to have. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweighs them all. Your bad day doesn't have to be your bad life. Amen. You might have to shift your focus to what are you focusing on and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on what the Lord has for me. And if this life, if it goes terribly off and it's bad, there's going to be a day where it's going to be good, and I'm going to live for that day. Even if, I don't think that every one of your days are going to be bad, but even if they were, if I can put my focus on there's a day to come, then I can live through each day. Look here, verse 18, it says, so we fix our eyes not on what's seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is what? Temporary. But what is unseen is eternal. Right now, as you are sitting in here, there is another life that is waiting for you, and it will be your eternal life. And you'll live a lot longer there than you'll live here. And I would say, what are you doing to prep for it? Because you're preparing for your future. I hope it's not 5 years in advance that you're just preparing for, but you're actually preparing for the unseen, the eternal, the things that are going to come upon you, that eventually, one day you will rise, and it will be your last day to rise. And we don't know what that day is. So you know what I do? Every day I'm preparing for the unseen. We view our struggles sometimes from the wrong perspective. We view them as, what do we say? God, why? Why are you doing this to me? God's not loving us, or He's allowing us to suffer. We say, why is this going on? God, you can change this, but you don't. God caused this, and maybe He did, or maybe He didn't. And the truth is that I believe His hand is always to the grindstone. I'm going to take what was meant for evil, and I'm going to use it for your good. And He's sharpening us, and He's making us stronger. And the things we've been through, they end up what they're not our bad things, but they're actually our badges of honor and our positions of influence to a world that has no eyes open to what God is trying to do in their life, and He's not opened them yet. So you say, I've been through some terrible, awful things. Well, you know what? You can speak to some places that I haven't been yet. I've lost my parents. You know what? You can speak to someone who's going through a difficult situation where you couldn't have before. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was hard. But He took what was meant for evil, and somehow He turned it for good. And all of a sudden, you're winning people to the Lord by telling them about your situation that you went through. Oh, come on now. You can speak to some areas. There's some pain that you only experience through going through it yourself. Yeah, it's how you get stronger. You know, that which doesn't kill me, it actually does make me stronger. In the Bible, it talks about the valley of the shadow of death. I want you to look at this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. Thy rod and Thy staff, they comfort me. See, the shadow, it looks scary in its appearance. It has this appearance of evil, and we can, when you're at night, you're a kid, you're laying in your bed, think about the shadow. You know, you see these shadows, and you start going, well, what is that? What's causing these shadows? And we see it shake, and you know what we do? We shiver in the presence of the shadow, because, wow, we're fearing whatever may be coming. We're fearing its arrival. Think about that. You see a real big shadow in the dark, all of a sudden you're paying a little more attention than you were before. You see something moving where you didn't think it was moving for, and it's just a shadow right now. But what if whatever's casting that shadow comes into my presence, and we worry about many things that never come to pass, and that's what the shadow is. Because it's not guaranteed that you're going to know what's making that shadow. And it might just be that your coat rack in your room is making that shadow. The things that scare us. Sometimes the idea of something coming is worse than the actual thing coming itself. I remember we went to church with this guy. He was kind of small like myself, and he looked down the hallway one time. He heard a noise. He looked down the hallway and he saw this guy. And he said, I think I can take him. And he said, so he crouched down. And he looked and he said, as he moved, the image moved at the other end of the hall. And he said, I can get him. And he said, finally, I mustered up all the courage that I had, and I took off and I ran head on into the mirror at the other end of the hallway. See, the appearance, it wasn't there. And what he built in his mind, he built that someone was in his house and it was scary. And a lot of times we worry about things that never even happened to us. And we go through these trials, and we go through these temptations, and we go through these things that are coming at us. And you know what? If we really removed our thought process, the whole evil would go away.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
I think about that sometimes. I'm thinking about things, and I'm like, that hasn't even happened yet. Why am I spending so much energy, so much effort, worrying about things that never come to pass? And you know, maybe you are going through trials, and God's putting you through the grindstone, but there are things in that trial that may never even come to happen. I guarantee you, as we laid at the hospital and I was getting ready to have surgery, if I would have got on Google, I could have been scared. There's plenty there. You either got a mole or you got cancer. You either got something or you got this, you got that. I told everyone one time, I said, hey, I'm at the doctor. I said, we're at the hospital, man. I said, I can Google anything. I already got the breakthrough. You know, what are you going to find? You know, what are you going to find that's worse than I said? I can Google, because everybody tells you, oh, you don't want to Google anything, because if you Google it, you might actually find, it's going to tell you that you have a brain tumor. I was like, well, I'm already there, so I can Google everything. Actually, I didn't Google anything because I didn't want to know anymore. But notice that this scripture, it talks about the valley of the shadow of death. But you know what? Has a shadow ever hurt you? Even in those times when the shadow was cast by things that we fear the most, has God ever left you? Does something have to be close to you to cast a shadow? Yeah, it does. And it may be near you, but it didn't touch you. And you know what? If you're here this morning, it didn't kill you. It was the shadow of death that scared us. It consumed us. It worried us. Notice that how he carries, the Lord, it says he carries us through. And we're never alone during these times, and we have his presence. If we look about this, Psalm 23 speaks about this, and he carries us through it sometimes, and he carries us to it sometimes. But the good thing is that he never makes you walk alone. Look, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. In other words, he encompasses everything that I need. He has it. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul, and he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He is there through the entire process. And the next part is the one we shared before. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thy are with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. All those things are there. But notice there's not one part where it says you're going to have to go by yourself, you're going to have to do this alone, and I'm not with you, and these are difficult, but I'm just going to be somewhere else. No, he says, I am with you, I am protecting you, I am providing for you no matter what the situation is. It looks scary, but you know what? We have a provider that provides for us in the middle of that, and he's taking the knife and he's putting it to the grindstone. But you know what? In order to put the knife to the grindstone, you got to be there. You say, oh, it's difficult. I don't know that I'll survive it. And I'll say, you know what? He places me in his hand, and he makes me better than I was before through difficulties. I don't have to be afraid, because he's guiding me and walking me. I may get close to death. What? I can't be close to something without a shadow casting on me. So I'm in the shadow of death, close enough to sense the shadow, but I have the comfort of the shepherd. So you know what that means? I can be fearless in the midst of my struggle. I can be fearless in it. I can walk into it. It's interesting how it works. The things that you feel like are killing you, the things that you say, oh, I don't know how I'm going to survive this, are actually making you. Look here, Romans 5, 3, and 4. It says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that sufferings produce perseverance. And perseverance, it does character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. It's working on you. It's making something out of you. I remember, when Hosanna was born, and she weighed 2 pounds, and she was 10 weeks early, and April just had a C-section. We're in UAB, and just a few hours before, we're resting comfortably in our bed. And now we're at this place, just a couple of days later, we've been on this bed rest for a couple of days, and now we have this 2-pound baby, and I remember walking out, I remember like, God, what are you doing? Like, why am I here? Why can't it just be easy? Why can't we go 9 months to delivery, all right? Why can't it be simple? And I remember walking out, and it was just like it was pressed on me. I'm not going to say it was the voice of God telling me or anything like that. I don't know. But I know it was pressed upon me, and I just heard, I'm making a man out of you. And you know what? We spent 56 days at UAB in the hospital, but we spent them together, and God took a bad situation that was meant for evil, and he turned it for good. And you know what he did through the whole process? He sharpened the knife on the grindstone. We walked back into that same NICU unit where the little neonatals are, and the little bitty babies to some of our friends. Just months later, and we sat there with them. You know what? It was fresh on us, but we understood. I don't like everything that happens to me, but you know what I can learn from it? You know what? I can comfort somebody who's going through it. It may be terrible. It may feel like it's going to kill me. And then when I go through it, I can go to somebody who's going through something similar, and I might actually save them from some of the pain. To give them, isn't it so great to get a little light at the end of the tunnel? May not be a light, but there's a pinpoint, and you see it, and you know it's approaching, and you get near it. You just need a little hope. You just need a little bit of hope in difficult times, and you start going faster. You know what you can be to somebody else who's going through a situation that you've already been through? You can be that light. When special forces are trying to determine who is going to make it and who will quit, they work hard to break down the individuals mentally and physically. Why? Because that which doesn't kill them actually makes them stronger. They yell at them. They put them through all these physical things to the point where they don't think they can go anymore. And then they go a little further. And then they're able to withstand some things that they thought would kill them. They're able to actually live through it. All of a sudden, you've got these tough men who have made it through this difficult process. And you know what? The process produced the man. It brought something out of them that they didn't know they had. Did they love the process? No, but they loved what it produced. And God is using your trials. He's using those things. It's not that He's making those trials for you, but He's using them to make you stronger. Not that He sends every storm, but He teaches us something through them. And you know what? When the battle is over, you know what you have? You're in a place that the devil cannot steal from you. Because you know what you're in? You're in a place of knowledge. He can't take away what I've been through. He can't take away the way that things felt. He can't take those things away. And we know what the trial feels like emotionally. And we know what it feels like physically. And we know what it's like to endure hardship and to live on. And we speak to other people in similar trials with this new knowledge that we didn't have before we went through the difficulty. So why are we looking at God and saying, God, why me? When we should be going, God, why not me? Am I not strong enough to endure the things that you have, Lord? Do not, there's things that I worry about, and I go, you know what? The Lord brought me through brain surgery. If He can bring me through that, then this is small. Why am I stressing about little things? Why am I worried about little things? And He'll remind me from time to time. It's like, didn't I make everything okay for you then? Isn't everything going to be okay for you now? So you got to quit complaining about what you're facing and realize that He can use the hardship for His glory. And if we understand that our hardship actually has a purpose, you know what? It's easier to face it. If Elijah had something going on, I don't know what it would be. Say it was something difficult. And I had to face it. And I knew that I was going to have to face this really difficult thing. If I knew it was for Him, I could face it. Whatever it was. Whatever it was. Whatever the difficulty was. If I knew that it had to do with them, if it had to do with April, if it had to do with those, you know what? I would face it. And some of us, we've already made the decision. Even if it means death, I'll face it. We know we'll lay down for things. So why are we so mad when things come across our plate, when difficulty comes and trials happen and God's producing something with us? Why are we getting so mad when we can already make up our mind that, yeah, this is difficult, but I can accomplish a purpose? There's a reason why I am here. Maybe it's just like Job, that he looks at Kedar one day and he says, you know what, devil? Kedar will never turn from you. Go ahead and touch him. Go ahead and make it difficult on him. Go ahead. He's not gonna budge. He's not gonna turn away. How about that be your badge of honor? I gotta face this. You know what? If we gotta face this, then we face it. And we poke out our chest and we walk forward. There's been days where literally all we did, we just put one foot in front of the other. And that's enough. God, whatever. I remember they pulled us in this little room and they told us, they said, we did a CT on you and we found something. There's a place in your head, we don't know what it is right now. We're going to have to do some more tests. And for several hours, we didn't know. So what did we do? We prayed and we put one foot in front of the other. If this is what we've got to go through, then this is what we go through. And some of you, all of you have been through certain things in your life where you know what? Sometimes all you have the strength to do is to put one foot in front of the other. But you know what you're doing? You're not only building character in yourself, you're building a story that you can tell to other people. Some of you have lived through things that are so difficult, that are so hard, that I don't want to live through those things. I don't want to. But you know what? If I have to, I can go to you and you're going to encourage me because you made it through it. And I guarantee you that everything you've been through, there's somebody else who's been through it too. You know, we endured great physical battles over the past few years. I can name one after another. Things that I don't love, great mental battles, things that I don't love, but you know what? They shape me. And they've not been sunshine and rainbows, but they have done what has never been done to me in that they have taken me to places that I've never been. I mean, there's some things that, had they not happened, I would have never been to those places. Like I told you before, I said I've never had a CT and never had an MRI until I went into the hospital. And then I've had 8 of them since then. It took me to places that I'd never been. So when you tell me, hey, I've got a CT coming up, I go, I know exactly where you are. When you say, hey, I've got an MRI coming up, you know what I say? I know exactly where you are. Some of you, if you had knee surgery, somebody else has knee surgery, you say, I know exactly what you're going to go through. Let me tell you what the recovery is going to be like. I can tell you right now the surgery that I had. I can tell you what the recovery is like. I can tell you the good things. I can tell you the things that you're going to face. I can tell you all the difficulties. I had no idea whatsoever. I didn't even know it existed before I had it. See, it's sharpening. It's putting you to the stone. The difference in a stone and a sharpening stone can be as simple as whose hand it's placed in. I got a sharpened stone. I don't use it to sharpen. I use it to throw. Guess what? It serves a different purpose, doesn't it? It's all in whose hand I allow it to be placed in. If I want to be sharp, I'm going to place myself in the Lord's hands. If we don't place our trust in the right place, what was meant to shape us will actually harm us. Think about that. It's meant to sharpen me, but if I put it in the wrong hands and somebody throws it at me, guess what it's going to do? It's going to be damage. It's not going to make me better, it's going to make me worse. And so I've got to place all the things in the Lord's hands. The Lord can take what the enemy has meant for evil and He can turn it for good. And you know what? We leave sharpened, we leave seasoned, and we leave ready. Some of you hunters, you have your knives that you skin with and stuff, and what do? Before the season starts, you sharpen those things. You get sharp blades, you sharpen that stuff up so that it's ready. Some of you fishermen who fillet fish, you got a knife, you sharpen that fillet knife so that it cuts right through and it serves the purpose that it's meant to serve. And you know what? The Lord can take you and He can put you against the grindstone. And you know what? When you come out, you're ready. You know, when we don't place our trust in Him, when we don't put ourselves in the hands of the Lord, we place our trust in the hands that don't help us, but they hurt us. Think about that. You go running, and you know you're feeling lonely, you're feeling bad, instead of going to the Lord and saying, Lord, I feel lonely, I feel bad, I've got these problems going on in my marriage right now. You run to the comfort of somebody else. You're just taking the stone and you place it in somebody else's hands. Somebody that's not your spouse. Somebody that's not meant for your good. And what was meant for good, it was a stone I had to give to the Lord, and maybe He even allowed it to happen to you because you're going through difficult things. So why? So you can trust Him. You place it in the hands of somebody who does not have your best in mind, who only has their best in mind, and all of a sudden you're involved in a situation that's going to break up this situation. And you did it seeking the solution to the same problem, but you did it the wrong way, as opposed to the right way. That's what I'm talking about when we place our stone in the hands of the wrong person. All right, when we look at the New Testament, we'll look at 2 Corinthians 12, then we're going to look at 2 Corinthians 11. So if you have your Bibles and you want to flip there, who is the strongest Christian that we see in the New Testament probably? Who do we see more from than anybody else? Paul. All right, who also suffered much for the Lord? Paul. Well, I thought if you live for the Lord, all these good things are going to happen. Everything's great, everything's glorious. Maybe not. Maybe He's going to use you as an example. Ask Job. What did He tell Paul when he comes to him? The prophet comes to Paul and he says, tell him how much you must suffer for me. Because of why? It produces something in you that goodness and blessings don't always produce in you. And it allows you to reach a people that you did not have a place to reach before. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Here we go. Let's get into this. I must go on boasting, although there is nothing to be gained. I go on to visions and revelations from the Lord. And I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up in the third heaven. When he says he's kind of talking in third person because he said, whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. He said, and I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. And I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself except about my weaknesses. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do say, or what I do or say. Or because of the surpassing great revelations, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh. I was given a messenger from Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away. But He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your strength. No, He says, my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest upon me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And we say, Lord, why do I have to go through this? It's because He's actually making you stronger by making you weak. If I'm going to boast in something, He found if He was going to boast, He would boast in the greatness of God by boasting about His own weakness. In other words, what made Him great was His ability to not be able to do it and His reliance on a God that could. greatest that I believe in a God that's greater than I am. So you know what? I'm going to boast in the things I can't do that I actually do because I have the power of God in me. Paul, right before this in 2 Corinthians 11, he lists all of his difficulties. He didn't see them as things that God had done, and he didn't blame God for their presence. He was even mad at God for having to go. He wasn't even mad at God for having to go through them. Look here, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. It says, "Are they servants of Christ? I know I sound like a madman, but I've served him far more. I've worked harder, been put in prison more often, been whipped times without number, and faced death again and again. 5 different times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. In other words, that's the same beating that Jesus got, but he got it 5 different times. So he said 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once I spent a whole night and a day adrift at sea. And we go, oh, but I thought that God, everything was going to be sunshines and rainbows. Everything was going to be good. Not according to this. I've traveled on many long journeys. I have faced many dangers from rivers and from robbers. I have faced dangers from my own people, the Jews, as well as from the Gentiles. In other words, everybody. I've faced dangers in the cities, in the deserts, and on the seas. And I've faced danger from men who claim to be believers but are not. I've worked hard and long, endured many sleepless nights. I've been hungry and thirsty and often gone without food. I've shivered in the cold without enough clothing to keep me warm. Then besides all this, I have the daily burden of concern for all the churches. Who is weak without my feeling that weakness? Who is led astray and I do not burn with anger? But he says what? I must boast. I would rather boast about the things that show how weak I am. I'm not boasting in how strong I am. I'm boasting in how weak I am. And that somehow I managed to do all these things because I have a God that's stronger than all these things. When you're standing up and you're looking over in a casket and there's people weeping, I don't know how you do it on your own power. I stood at the front of the casket and watched sons cry over their father as they lost him, and just tears streaming down their face, and you think, I don't know how they do it. It's because in their weakness they have a God that's stronger than their weakness. Amen. In the things that you go through, I'll guarantee you there are times when you pray and it's dark and you don't hear anything. You don't hear anything back from God, and he's just silent. You're like, God, why are you silent? But what we got to realize is sometimes he's got the wall up and he's working on the other side of the wall for your good. And one day there's going to come a day where the wall comes crumbling down and you're going to see exactly what he was doing for it. Paul experienced much pain for what? For the sake of Christ. Each event, God shaped him through. Even when he started his ministry, he was told how much he would have to suffer for the Lord. He experienced more difficulty than most and didn't blame God for it, but proclaimed God through it. It's easy to do the blame game. Oh, I'm going through this because, God, you can make this easier on me. Why, God? Why do I have to do so much? Or we could say, you know what, God, you're making me stronger through this. I'm not a strong person, but I'm going to be strong because of you. For some of you, you've been through some things that I haven't been through. And you know what your pain has done? It's not killed you, it's prepared you. Your difficulty, it didn't disqualify you, it actually qualified you. And your trials, you know what they did? They birthed your story. You can go to people and you can say, you know what, I've been through that, I've done that, I lived through it. But let me tell you something. Your story should be where God has brought you from, or what he's bringing you through. Not where you plan on going back to stay. In other words, if you've been through difficulty before and you know what caused that difficulty, if you can avoid it, that should be what your plan is. You should be coming through these things. It's not an excuse to go back and say, oh, I used to be addicted to this, so I'm going to go back and do this, or I used to have this problem, so I'm going to go back. No, it's a place for you to get some footing and to go forward and to move with Christ. He's not wanting to carry you back to the problems. He's wanting to carry you out away from them. And there's a verse, unfortunately, that I think about a lot, and it has to do with people returning to their past. It has to do with people making the same mistakes over and over. And I hate to say I love this verse, but in a way I do. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. You say, well, why does this person who used to be this way go back to this? Because it's easier to return to what you used to be than to go forward with what Christ has for you. what He has for you may be actual work for you. It may be work to accomplish the goal that He has for you. So it's easier to go back to what I'm used to. Even though it's killing me, it's easier to return to that. And for some of you, you got commitments to the Lord. Some of you make old commitments. Some of you got new commitments. What I would say, it's always going to be easier to turn around and go back. But it's not profitable for you. And that's not what we're giving an excuse for this morning. I'm saying when you keep making the same mistake over and over again, we actually live this verse. We return to our folly, and instead of recovering from our mistakes, instead of learning from the situations, we run back to our mistakes. With our mistakes or the situations that we can't control like this, it needs to be something like either I'm already left or I am leaving. I'm not going back to these things. If God is allowing me to be sharpened by the situation, if I'm placed in, then I choose to learn. And you know what? If I've got to go through a trial, even if the trial is my doing, and I'm in this trial right now because of a choice that I made, and He's sharpening me through it, then you know what? I choose to succeed from this. How we respond to our difficulty will be another way for us to bring praise to Him. It's very easy to love the Lord and do all the right things when everything is going well. I want to see what your character is like when things don't go well. 1 Peter says, well, I don't think I have the verse, but 1 Peter 1:6 says, in all this greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. They have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. No, I could not do the things that we do, but we go forward. Why? Because we have the power of Christ to do anything. May have to go through it. I may have to go through it. I may have to go to it. But what I'm doing is I'm coming away from it. There's transformation in this process. You go through trials and grief of all kinds, but they're proving genuineness of your faith and bringing praise and glory back to Christ. What you've got to realize is trials are not forever. You get up and you got something all of a sudden on your plate that you didn't have before. Trials are not forever. If we were placed on the grindstone forever, what happens to a knife when it's placed on the grindstone too long? It disappears. It disintegrates. That's no longer helping the situation, it's helping. We would be sharpened until the point that we were gone and we would be useless for the kingdom. And that's not what Christ places us in. He places us in transformation power. Many of the Bibles start off the stories with this phrase, and it came to pass. Notice it doesn't say, and it came to stay. Come to pass. It means the things that you're going through are not forever. Good and bad. And it even tells us in the verse that we just read that we suffer grief and trials for what? A little while. And I'm thankful that difficulty comes to pass. And the process of the grindstone is temporary. And you know what? It produces something in me that makes me more useful through it. What's more useful? Knife that's been through the grindstone, or a knife that you got out of the drawer that's dull. We may not be as sharp before the trial as we are once we've been through it. I don't like pain. I don't like loss. I don't like mourning. I don't like to go to the house in mourning, and I don't like to go to funeral homes. I don't like sickness or disease. But you know what? We can learn from those things. Look at this verse here. It's better to go to the house of mourning than go to the house of feasting. For death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart. We can, and we need to learn from the experience of loss. Death, for example, shows us what? It shows that our time is limited. And if we take advantage of it while we can enjoy what? The small things. We can pursue our dreams of today and seek the Lord while He may be found. We're not waiting for things to happen, but we're actually taking advantage of the situation. If we go to the house of mourning, if we go to the funeral home, and we see that someone's life has been cut tragically short, we look at it and we go, you know what? Life is short, then I need to be aggressively pursuing the things that God has for me. You know what? If time is going to end, then I need to take advantage of the time that I have in order to produce the things that God wants to produce through me. You know what? If there's somebody that's lost, it's not tomorrow that I need to go tell them about the Lord. It's today. I actually know a pastor friend, and somebody called him and said, well, you go see so-and-so today. They need to know the Lord. And they died in the middle of the night. He's He's a prosperous pastor. He's got a bigger church than I don't know that I'll ever have. He's got thousands and thousands coming to him, but he knows that was the point where he made a mistake. Trials, what they do, they give us knowledge that we did not have before. It allows us a place at a table when someone else endures a similar thing. It allows us a place to sit down and talk with them plainly about it. We feel what they feel. We know what they feel. When we go through similar things, we can relate because we know the gut-wrenching pain that causes. Or we know the sting that feels. And I'm almost done, and I would say this. I may learn something that prevents someone else from having to endure a hardship because of the experience that I've been through. And I may be able to give someone hope because I can promise them light at the end of the tunnel. And I might testify of the presence of a mighty Savior in the midst of a current storm. There's some things you don't have to go through. You can go to, and you can turn from them. And there's been times where people are heading a certain direction, and I say, if you keep going down this direction, this is where you're going to end up. This is what you're going to do. And they either turned, or they ended up exactly where we told them. If you have children, you've probably done this a time or two. If you keep going down this path, we're going to end up. But you know what? Our lessons that we've learned are things that we can pass on. The grindstone is painful, but it can produce a purpose. Think about that. You're sharper than you were before. The knife slices better when it's placed through the grindstone. And it doesn't get sharper by sitting near the grindstone. It'll have to be placed on it. And only for a period of time, it'll come away better than it was before. Won't ever be the same. Everybody who knows and had a knife for a long time, I remember my granddad used to have knives, and he'd sharpen them so many times that the blade was smaller than it was before. It wasn't the same as when he first bought it new. It's been put through the process. I'm not the same as I used to be. There's things that I've been put through. It won't be the same, but you know what? I know a little one that I did yesterday. And that's what I'm telling you. You need to be thinking about what is the trial I'm going through going to produce, and how can I help someone else? All right, worship team, come this morning. And what I would say to you this morning, the altar is open for people who want to know the Lord, who say, 2020 can be my best year yet. You know what? I've been through some grindstones. I've been through some moments, but I'm going to use them, and I'm going to place the stone in the right hand, and they're going to make me sharper, and they're going to make me better than I was before, and I'm going to walk out of here more useful than I was before. I'm going to do things. You know what a sharp knife will do? Against a door, I'll do some things that's never done before. And so this may be your year. I'm going to ask you to stand with me at this time. Let's stand together. And you know what? The altar is open as they sing this morning. If you say, Lord, I just need a little help, Lord. Show me the purpose for my pain. Show me what you're producing through my trial.
Our fight is with